Most large countries have several levels of government. These usually include a central or national government, as well as the governments of states or provinces, counties, cities, towns, and villages. So let's take a look at some different government systems. A unitary system gives all key powers to a central or national government. The central government has the power to create state, provincial, and other local governments and may give them limited sovereignty. Countries with a unitary system of government are Great Britain, France, and Italy. A federal system divides powers of a government between the national government and a state or provincial government. Countries with a federal system are Canada, Switzerland, Mexico, Australia, India, and the United States. To begin with, the United States formed a confederacy, which is a loose union of independent states. But when the Confederacy failed, the American leaders wrote a constitution that made the national government supreme while preserving some powers for state governments. Constitutions in government. A constitution government, or constitutional government, is a government in which a constitution places limits on the powers of those who govern. A constitution is a plan that provides guidelines for government. Constitutions are incomplete guides because no written constitution can spell out all of the laws, customs, and ideas of a government. However, a constitution does serve the following purposes. A, it sets forth goals and ideals that the people of a nation believe in and share. These are usually stated in the preamble. B, it establishes the basic structure of government and defines the government's powers and duties. For example, in a federal state, a constitution describes the relationship between the national and state governments. C, it provides the supreme law for the country. Constitutional law involves the interpretation and application of the Constitution. It defines the extent and limits of government power and the rights of citizens. Politics in government. People take part in politics when they try to control the actions and decisions of government. In the United States, for example, Americans continually struggle over what services the government should provide, how much it should spend, and who should pay for the cost. Politics provides peaceful ways for citizens to settle these conflicts. The outcomes of political struggles affect the quality of air and water, jobs and prices, peace and war, rights and freedoms, and other important matters. Some people fear that politics often sacrifices the good of all for the benefit of a few. However, the misuse of politics should not prevent citizens from appreciating the accomplishments of the political system. Governing in a complex world. The United States and about 20 other countries, including Japan, Canada, Australia, and France, are industrialized nations. These countries have large industries and advanced technology that provide a more comfortable way of life than many developing nations do. Developing nations are only beginning to grow industrially. In the poorest of these countries, widespread hunger, disease, and political unrest are a way of life. Nations are becoming more and more interdependent. This means that they interact with or depend on one another economically and politically. Thus, what happens in one nation or area of the world affects what happens in other places. Global interdependence is increasing due to growing industrialization and rapid technological advances, such as the Internet. Many developing states are very dependent on industrialized ones for economic aid, medical supplies and services, financial investment, help in handling national disasters, and military aid. Non-state groups also play a key role in international politics. These non-state groups fall into four categories. A, terrorist groups and quasi-military organizations such as Al-Qaeda, or now probably the one we talk about most, an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Political movements such as the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, and the Irish Republican Army, or IRA, multinational corporations such as General Motors, Nabisco, Mitsubishi, and Sony, and international organizations such as the World Trade Organization, or WTO, which is composed of many nations working together for a common goal. The United States has a representative democracy that serves as a model of government for many people around the world. Today, democracies outnumber all other forms of government. Let's take a look at fascism. Benito Mussolini created fascism, which appealed to the lower middle class. It was based on extreme nationalism and featured economic, social, and political mobilization. The benefit of the state was more important than the individual needs, and it was considered to be the final stage in the evolution of capitalism. Fascism is the political opposite of communism, but both fascist and communist had totalitarian governments and used violence to suppress opposition. And here you see a quote from Mussolini: "Everything for the state, nothing against the state, nothing outside the state." So looking at the major types of government, you have an autocracy. This is probably the oldest type of government. The power and authority to rule are in the hands of a single individual. Some examples would include a totalitarian dictatorship. That's one form of autocracy in which the government tries to control all aspects of the social and economic life. Nazi Germany was an example of a totalitarian dictatorship. A monarchy is another form of autocracy. A king, queen, or emperor who exercises the supreme powers of government is an absolute monarch. Monarchs ruled in medieval Europe under the social hierarchy of feudalism. An example of an absolute monarch is the king of Saudi Arabia. In a constitutional monarchy, a monarch shares governmental powers with an elected legislature or acts mainly as a ceremonial head of state. Great Britain, Sweden, Japan, and the Netherlands have constitutional monarchies. An oligarchy. This is a system of government in which small groups holds power, or which a small group, rather, holds power. The government of China is an oligarchy since the Communist Party and the armed forces control the government. Democracy. This is any system of government in which the people rule. In a direct democracy, the citizens govern themselves by voting on issues individually. In a representative democracy, the people elect representatives and give them the power to make the laws and run the government. In a republic, elected representatives are responsible to the people. Representative democracy, republic, and constitutional republic mean the same thing to most Americans. However, not every democracy is a republic. For example, Great Britain is a democracy, but not a republic.